A woman snapped a steel saw blade in half and buried the pieces inside ground beef. After mixing it thoroughly, she wrapped it tightly in plastic wrap and left it in the freezer overnight. The next day at work, she slipped the food to an inmate through a guard she was friendly with. Mike played it cool, unwrapping the package right in front of the guard. Seeing nothing but ground beef inside, the guard walked away satisfied. Once Mike was sure no one in the cell block was watching, he quickly thawed the frozen meat with water, pulled out the hidden saw blade, and began preparing for his escape. He then handed the saw blade fragments to John, who got to work making their escape tools. With practiced hands, John wrapped cloth strips around both ends of the blade, secured them, and snapped it in half down the middle. Then he pulled out a nail clipper, used a rubber band to fasten one end of the blade tightly, and wrapped the whole thing in thick layers of cloth. Within minutes, 2 handy tools were ready. John secretly passed one of the tools to Mike. During the day, while other inmates were out for activities, the two split up the work. One pretended to paint the wall while keeping watch, and the other hid inside, sawing through the ventilation grate. Mike had even figured out ahead of time how to collect the metal shavings. He lined up a row of small magnets, wrapped them in brown paper, and placed them on the floor. Every bit of falling debris stuck to the magnets and was later flushed down the toilet without a trace. They slid the bed back into place and pulled down a picture to cover the hole. Crouching low, they moved through the ducts, making their way quietly to the lower level. It was pitch black down there, but both men could barely contain their excitement. They followed the pipes for a long time without finding an end. So Mike suggested they split up and explore different directions. The next day, they carefully compared their positions above ground with where they'd ended up the night before. That night, they went back in and continued searching for an exit. Day after day, strike after strike, after what must have been 100,000 blows, he finally reached the prison's exterior wall. But it was over 6 feet thick, solid reinforced concrete. John was ready to give up right then and there. At this rate, it would take at least 5 more years to break through. Mike tried to lift his spirits, telling him to think about Andy from Shawshank. If you stay focused on one thing long enough, you'll eventually succeed. Mike reached out again to Mary, who worked at the prison, and asked her to scout the boiler room. Soon enough, they discovered a storm drain right near where Mary had been standing. It was the perfect escape route. John got back to work, swapping out one saw blade after another. After 2 weeks of effort, he finally cut open a large hole. Thrilled, he strapped on arm protection and crawled in without hesitation. The pipe seemed to stretch on forever, but it carried the promise of freedom. He pushed forward with everything he had, but after just 3 minutes, he started struggling to breathe. The pipe was dangerously low on oxygen. John scrambled backward in a panic. Luckily, the exit wasn't far. Otherwise, he would have died in there. The prison sank into deep darkness, but Mike and John were wide awake. They arranged the decoys on their beds, pulled back the bed frames, slipped into the hidden passage, and replaced everything behind them. 2 living men were about to vanish from this place without a sound. They crawled through the pipes, and along the way, John even left behind a cartoon mocking the guards. Before long, they emerged from the heating duct right on schedule. At the stroke of midnight, the two pushed open the manhole cover and climbed out into the night. Just like that, they pulled off their escape.